All right, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
All right, so we are having a the 48th Shiur, Mareh Yaakov. We are very honored today to have Rabbi Jeff, our stalwart rabbi, as always, teaching us. We also have a special guest visitor, Yisrael Seaman, who is visiting us from Israel, who is the namesake of the author of the Mareh Yaakov. His name is Yisrael versus Yaakov because it's more reflective of Geula, but he is named after the Mechaber of the Sefer. And as it happens, next week on July 22nd will be the 100th year, the 99th birthday, 100th year for Dr. Seaman the Mechaber. So there you go.
So I thought it was fitting because again we're going to start another parsha this week, to go back to the introduction before we do, and I thought especially with the visitor here and present that we would try through portions of the introduction to understand the scholarship that was involved in putting the Sefer together. So we're in the introduction, page VI, page 6 of the introduction. And what I wanted to go over is again the sources that are used in order to be able to give each of these interpretations. So we're going to read in this book. I will adhere to certain guidelines, progression from right to left, because the word Sefer is primarily a biblical commentary, though it is written prevalently in English. So it was a very considered and thought-through approach that was given in order to write this Sefer. There are rules that he applied that apply consistently throughout the book, and the idea is that each word or phrase in Torah has a set of ta'amim, a set of reading notes that goes underneath it, and therefore, because the ta'amim are also Torah L'Moshe Sinai, because they're also divinely given, you have to realize that if a certain word or group of words was given a note, then there must have been a reason for that. It wasn't just something that randomly appears. And given that there are not different notes for every set of words, there are commonalities, and we use the notes again and again and again, there must be a certain meaning applied to each of those notes, and we have to be able to try to derive how those words got those notes. So we're skipping the next paragraph. We're going down. The commentary will be composed by a consideration of numerous elements. A, guiding marks. The ta'amim, or reading marks, which will attempt to give a visual indication of detailed meanings. So we're going to take both the shape of the ta'amim, the placement of the ta'amim, and the name of the ta'am sometimes, and the meaning of that name, and we're going to try to apply that to the particular word or word group that it goes. Grammar of the Bible, Dikuk Yashan, and comparative philology, punctuation, spelling, division of words by letters, combination of beginning and end letters. So we're going to use all of these things in order to try to be able to get meaning out of something that seems quite obscure. The size of certain letters, so sometimes you'll have a letter that is written larger or smaller than normal. Reduplication, when you have a letter that's doubled within a word, does that have any meaning? Repetitions of names in straight succession. So Avraham, does that have a significance? And is there a difference between Avraham and Ele Toldot Noach Ish Tzadik? So we had just come out of Parshat Noach, and we noticed that whenever we say Noach's name twice, Ele Toldot Noach Ish Tzadik, we say that first part, and then we've got a note that tells us that there's a hard stop there, an etnachta, something that says We're stopping and we're pausing there. And then we say Noach's name again. So we're sort of separating his name. And when we say Vayomer Elokim Avraham, Avraham, when God says to Avraham, we have a soft stop in between. We have barely a pause in between. So we see both the concept that Noach ish tzaddik, Noach is somebody who is, Rashi says, is regarded as righteous. Well, was he only a tzaddik in his own generation? Or was he, in fact, a tzaddik on the level of Avraham? And we see that in the placement of the word as well. We see a direct comparison to somebody who's truly a tzaddik, to Avraham, because he's got his name mentioned twice in a row. Noach, Noach, Avraham, Avraham. And yet, we see that perhaps there's a little bit of a taint to Noach, although as we read through the chapter, we learned to appreciate both Noach's good characteristics and, in fact, Terach's good characteristics. We learned at the end, because we see his name comes twice as well, but again with that same pause that Noach gets. Go ahead, Al.
Yeah, but it just can't be, that in itself is not enough, just because you could think, because Reshit refers to Israel and Amalek, Lahavdil, you know what I mean? So it has to be more than just having...
It's a question of having the same word repeated twice in a row. So that's different from a Gzeira Shava, when you have the same wording used twice. That's not the same element that we're describing here, but rather having the same word repeated twice in a row.
But when you say, let's say there was a Russia in Tanakh that had this synagogue, but I don't know if there is, like Bilam, you wouldn't...
There in fact, there is not.
No, okay, so...
And that's
okay.
That's the point.
So again, we're gonna continue with the things that were considered in order to be able to give these translations. Accents in the form of added letters and upper points. So sometimes we will have words that are written agrammatically, words that are written in incorrect grammatical form, or with a letter added or a letter taken away, and we have to see what the significance of that. We have certain words that are written with dots on top of them. Again, we have to give significance to those, because that is something that is passed down to us, that those dots are there.
Nothing is done.
Interchange and deformation of words, when we see things like Noach and Chain, the word Noach written backwards, Noach Matzah Chain, B'nai Hashem. When we see those things, we have to decide why we're seeing a thing and its opposite next to each other. Substitution by related letters, when we have words that seem to have letters that don't belong there, or letters that have been moved around in a word, keves and kesev and things like that. Again, we have to try and decide what is going on there. So shifting of letters. Right? It's not just Trump. No. In addition, sources from the Parish go both from farther on in Tanakh and in Talmud. The order of one thing after another is taken into consideration, and not only that, we go beyond Torah sources and we go to scientific sources, historical sources, like archaeological sources, philosophical sources, folklore and story, Kabbalah. So we're going to try to introduce all of these elements in order to say why it's going to come up randomly based on the needs of the word grouping together with its time, together with its reading note. So
just a question, with one of the what would you call these, like you do in English when it uses devices? Thank you very much. Devices, yeah. Something like when it's the reverse letters, Noah and Cain. Would that one in particular, that device in particular, always be hyphenated like that? Or the word, two words?
No. So these are not words that that
Right.
necessarily have to happen right next to each other, but rather would happen either in the same sentence or in close apposition to
Oh,
each
okay.
other.
All
So
right.
they might come
He's
one or
just
two, one
putting this
sentence,
as an
one
example,
sentence
side by
apart,
side.
but Noach and Chain happen to be in the same pasuk.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And you're
So I think we're going to again pause here because we're going to switch books.